Let's begin with, how would you define great leadership communication?
At its simplest level, it's the way that a leader, he or she, affects the people that they are around through the way they communicate, through the way they behave. I do an exercise with leaders all over the world where we kind of do this early in sessions, where we talk about getting them to define what great leadership communication is. So if you had a group of great leaders in front of you, what would they do? How would they affect us? And there's pretty much always a consensus that what great leadership communication is about is the leader's ability to inspire, the leader's ability to motivate. When we are perhaps low performing, what they do that takes us into high performance. To use a sporting analogy, you're 2-0 down at half time. What is it that the leader does or says that allows you to change the outcome of that match? And while, yes, that has its place in great leadership communication, at Mission Performance we would suggest that it's about something very different from that. For us, great leadership communication is about doing little things, simple things, repeatedly, very, very well. Essentially, it's about building relationships.
So why is relationship building so important for leaders?
Oh look, because you can have the greatest strategy in the world, you can have the greatest product in the world, the greatest idea in the world, the greatest solution, but unless you are putting across that strategy, product, idea or solution in a way that is not only engaging people, but in a way that is aligned with the message itself, then the impact that you're having on people is obviously less effective than it would be, but if you take it to its worst case scenario, it can be very, very negative. There's something else that it's about as well, which is about culture, and culture within the organisation. We've done a lot of work with the Clip Around the World yacht race. We work with them as leadership partner, development partner. We were a lead sponsor for one of the boats, but more particularly for this conversation, we design and deliver the leadership communication training that each of the skippers, it's a unique training that each of the skippers receives before they go out into the race. And if there's one thing that we've learned from them, if there's one thing that I've learned from them, it's this, that whether you like it or not, for good or bad, as a leader, you pretty much get the culture you deserve. If you're communicating, building relationships in one way, it will affect culture and performance in that way. If you're doing it in a different way, then you're going to have a different effect on the culture in your organisation and a different effect on performance levels. We don't work with people on their communication because it's fun and enjoyable and makes people feel good. It's part of it. We work with communication on people because fundamentally it affects performance in organisations.
So in your experience of delivering the portfolio globally with some great leaders, are there any qualities that these great leaders share?
I heard somebody else say this, but the more that I experience working with leaders, the great leaders, I see them do this repeatedly. The first thing is that they're authentic. They don't put on a big performance when they lead. They don't change particularly. They're people that we believe. I've worked with some less experienced leaders who sort of believe they have to go into leadership mode. And it doesn't quite work, it doesn't translate. The second thing that great leaders have in common, I would suggest, and this is a slightly more complicated idea, is that they're really vulnerable. They're very, very human. In everything they do, they have a way of putting other people at the centre of everything they do, which is an extremely appealing quality. I'm loath to say that you like them, because you might not like the message that they're putting across, but there's something about that person that ensures that you understand things matter to them. And if they matter to them, there is a good chance they're going to matter to you as well.
And how as an organisation do we help leaders develop those qualities?
In various different ways. It always starts with the first thing, which is listening to people. We work with people one-to-one, coaching people, we work with groups. Invariably we're doing the same thing when we do that, which is giving people an understanding of how they currently impact the people around them. Whether that is having a one-to-one conversation with somebody or standing in front of 1,000 people when you're presenting them. What is it that you're doing through the way that you're behaving? And then we work with them using a series of tools, the human toolkit, if you want, of communication, looking at what people do physically, what people do verbally, gesture, eye contact, energy states, all of those things that help you align the message that you're putting across. One thing that we certainly don't do, my background is in performance, I'm an actor, and many of the communications team at Mission performance come from that background as well. What we're not teaching is people to act. Right? It's got nothing to do with that. It is about turning up the things that can help you in the way that you're putting across a message and turning down the stuff that's slightly getting in the way. I come back to that authentic thing. If you're putting on a big display and we don't believe it, that isn't, I would suggest to you, what great leadership is about.
So finally, if you had to pick one communication skill or tool that is essential for leaders, what would it be?
It would be something I haven't mentioned yet, which is listening. Listening for me is at the heartbeat of everything that great leaders do. I'd go slightly further than that. I would suggest to you that listening is, well, if you're not listening, you're not leading. I suggest that those two things go hand in hand. Two things that don't necessarily go hand in hand are management and leadership. Two very, very different things. Management is something that you get given. Leadership is a choice. Sometimes you meet people where those two things are aligned. Quite often you meet people where those two things aren't aligned. And that's when you make the choice, okay, I'm in this position of management, now I'm going to lead. And that, as I say, would start with your ability to listen to others.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media. The links will be in the description below. Thank you.